Good morning, good life. You're listening to Detail Therapy, episode 71, an urgent conversation about the situation in the United States for businesses during a time of COVID-19.
She's an award-winning YouTuber and best-selling author, obsessed with helping you go after the life you want.
I like it.
Join her as she seeks out the stories and strategies
Give me every little detail.
of extraordinary people who found success.
I'm going to get emotional. Oh my God.
Welcome to Detail Therapy with Amy Landino.
Hey everyone, it's Amy Landino, the host of Detail Therapy. I wanted to do a special Monday episode because I did not want to waste any time after I had this conversation getting it to you. I want to let you know right now that if you're interested in more of the types of details that we share on Detail Therapy, tune in tomorrow. We have an amazing interview with Tim Kite. It's fantastic. If you want to get motivated, oh my goodness gracious, it's a great one. Please tune in for that. But I did want to throw this one out there. If you are a small business in the US and you are trying to figure out what your options are right now during the crazy moment that is happening for the COVID-19 crisis, there are a lot of options that are out there. There are a lot of ways for you to go after the life you want and make sure that you stay afloat with the work that you do during this time. And there's a lot of confusion about it. The government has shared a lot of different options in terms of disaster relief and loans, and the words forgiveness have been thrown out there, and the payment terms have been thrown out there, and there's a lot of misinformation. It's confusing. I asked my accountant, Nathan Kloster, to come back on the show. We just heard from him kind of recently. I wasn't anticipating having him back so soon, but I thought he could really shed some light on this as an accounting professional for anyone who is really confused about what's going on. Oftentimes, confusion leads to inaction, and there may actually be something here you should be considering. So if you are a business owner or freelancer in the United States and you are wondering what options are available to you during the COVID-19 crisis and how you can continue to keep your business afloat, stay tuned. It's time to chat with my accountant, Nathan Kloster. Nathan Kloster, welcome back to Detail Therapy.
I'm glad to be back. Pretty short order, but I'm glad to be back.
It's so funny because I didn't think I'd have you back this soon. I do want to say, though, our conversation at the end of, I think it was at the end of season 3, we really went into the weeds, but I think a lot of business owners really appreciated it because there was such good information in there. And clearly, we definitely piqued some interest for people to have different types of conversations with their own accountants. So I want to thank you for that episode in particular. We'll link to that in the show notes too.
Yeah, for sure. I'm glad to hear that.
You know, so I want to say it's like kind of unfortunate circumstances to have you on, but at the same time, in my opinion, and I said this to you before we started recording, it's all about controlling the controllable. And we are living in a moment right now where it doesn't feel like there's a lot in our control. The entire world is physical distancing for the reason of COVID-19, this virus that has sort of taken over the world. And we're really trying to do our very best to prevent the atrocity that it could be. And it's still going to be very unfortunate for a lot of people. So in the situation of business, things are changing a lot. People need to pivot. People need to shut down. There's just everything you can think of is happening to business to rattle businesses in a lot of ways. So I thought for us to have an effective conversation might be really useful for individuals trying to figure out, okay, I have a business and this situation of not being able to come in contact with other people is seriously affecting it, and trying to understand the landscape right now of what our options are. I think there's a lot of confusion right now because of the government announcing that there is a lot of assistance coming, but it's unclear what's out there, what's going to be available, what's not available yet, what people will qualify for. And I was just really hoping to have a candid conversation with you here in your professional opinion about what we know now about what's available for businesses in this moment in time.
Yeah, so let me preface by saying, these programs have only been out for about a week, maybe 2 weeks at best. nobody can claim to be the all-knowing expert or seasoned expert with this stuff because it's just all brand new. That being said, I mean, we've seen some of this before, right? Like in 2008, we saw some stimulus packages. So
Yeah.
it's not the first time we've seen this. It's just that the way the government's rolling it out, there's a lot of confusion, like you said. So let me
Mhm.
just first put a disclaimer that says, you know what, hey, this information could change. They could change by the time this
Could
podcast is
change
over.
in like 5 minutes.
Right, right. So it could. I think you and I both know, we'll probably get into this later, but the banks were supposed to roll out the ability to apply for the second loan today, and a lot of banks are struggling with that. So that's already changed today.
Mhm.
Um, but but yeah, I guess let's go ahead and get into that. You want to just jump into like
Yeah.
what loans are
The
available?
biggest thing, and I'm going to be sort of like the customer of this conversation. I'm a small business and you're my accountant, and something we've been talking about is, okay, look, here's where we stand right now. This is totally throwing a wrench not just into our moment at this point, but the entire year of 2020 it looks like, because we do a lot of event driven things, yada yada yada. So to me, I'm a small business. I heard there's this disaster loan. I heard there's that disaster loan for payroll. Can you help to kind of differentiate for me what are the different options? How are they different? And what do we actually know about them at this point?
Yeah. So about a couple weeks ago, the first loan was rolled out, and that one was directly. It's a disaster loan, so it's really no different than like when Hurricane Katrina came or the BP oil spill. It's really considered a loan for those kind of events, and that was an $8 billion fund, and it was there was a base. It was just like basic terms of a loan. You had an interest rate, a payback period. They were very favorable terms, but it was still very much a traditional style SBA loan that you had to pay back. But there was a lot of chatter, right? I mean, you and I talked about this about
Yeah.
forgiveness, and we weren't sure if it was going to be forgiven, that sort of thing. And now the government has rolled out a second loan. It's the Paycheck Protection Program, PPP for short, and this is a loan that you need to apply through your bank with. I'll get into more details in a minute, but this loan is engineered to be forgivable if you use the funds for certain expenses like payroll.
Hmm.
The goal here is to keep people employed, and the government wants to help you do that. They want to try to get you, 2.5, 3 months worth of wages that you can pay, whether you have revenue coming in or not. Um, there's a very low barrier to entry for these loans. It really is almost as simple as going to the bank, giving them your name, your company's EIN, the revenue for the last 12 months, and payroll documentation. Which, if you have any kind of payroll service, whether it's Gusto, which I highly recommend, or ADP or Paychecks or any of them, you can get those reports, and that's really all you have to do. And they're just going to verify it, and hopefully they'll give you 2.5 times your average monthly payroll.
So it sounds like the second loan, I don't know. I assume a lot more thought went into it, but I don't know. I mean, it sounds like it was in reaction to the fact that there were so many layoffs happening when the physical distancing guidelines were given by the majority of governors in the country. So you can't work, you're a server, right? And so that business can't sustain even paying you an hourly wage, so you're laid off and you literally can't make any money if that were the scenario. So for the businesses who maybe haven't laid people off yet or are just considering it because it's going to be in the best interest of everyone, it sounds like the 7A was created so that we can keep people in their jobs. And for the businesses that are able to do that, give them what they need to be able to do that. And I think that's where the forgiveness conversation started coming into play. Can you let's just like layman's terms, it sounds silly, but like layman's terms, what does it
Sure.
actually mean when a bank says, here's a loan and here's a forgiveness of the loan?
Right. So before I jump on that answer, let me just clarify one thing. If you have laid people off, like say in the last, I think it's 60 days,
Hmm.
you can bring those people back, and this loan will
Wow.
still be forgiven. So if you have people that you laid off, and we all know how emotional that can be, and your team's
Yeah.
falling apart, you can bring them back. and you can use these funds to pay those people and they will be forgiven. So that gets into the next question that you asked, which is, what does it mean in layman's terms for a loan to be forgiven? Don't have to pay it back. Simple as that. So if there's going to be a verification process, because it's not going to just be the honor system where you just tell someone, oh yeah, I used it for payroll. You're going to have to support that, and that should be a pretty easy process, especially if you use a payroll service. But you are going to have to prove that you used it for payroll. You can also use these funds for things like rent and utilities, and I believe health benefits, and there's a whole list of other things that. I can provide that list, with a link down below or something like that. But as long as you use it for a specified set of expenses, payroll, rent, utilities being at the top, you will not have to pay this loan back.
So that's really interesting. I mean, especially with the fact that there were probably a lot of reactions happening in the business world and layoffs were happening very quickly. Just because why are you going to pay somebody if you know for a fact that your business is shutting its doors because it's being asked to by the government? So then if that's this one, that's where we are with this one. It sounds it's very much surrounded by, if you have a payroll in place and you have people on payroll, that's where they're generating those eligibility numbers. What is the first disaster loan that they came out with, and how does that apply to the situation?
So the first disaster loan, I'll be the first to tell you, it seemed very confusing as to why it was being pushed out. There wasn't a very clear message on that. And to be perfectly honest, I mean, that fund is very small. It's only $8 billion. I think you and I talked about this. I mean, the city of Columbus, Ohio alone could take all $8 billion from that fund. So I think that fund was really emergency relief for businesses that were like having immediate cash issues. I mean, they didn't even have, say, 2 weeks worth of cash in the bank that they could survive on. And so I think that's where that was more of like an emergency response type of loan. That being said, I have talked to many accountants. I would love for anyone to tell me if they know anyone who has received that money yet, because I don't know anyone that's received that money yet. So it was positioned as an emergency kind of finance loan, but I don't know a single person that has the money in their bank account yet. That one is also an interesting one, because last Friday when they rolled out the CARE Act, they put a provision in there where businesses had the potential to get a $10,000 grant from that disaster loan. And what that basically means is you could get $10,000 and not have to pay it back. It was no longer a loan, it was a grant. And no one's guaranteed to get the full 10,000, but you could get up to 10,000. And let me also just say this: is I think of these loans, I've had, as you can imagine, I've had hundreds of these conversations with people.
Yeah,
it's really hard to differentiate the two different loans when you're speaking about it, and you can't see it on paper.
right.
So I have put a little model together, a little table that will show the key differences between the loans that anyone can grab. And again, you can link that as well. But that'll really help people understand what the differences are. But I think the message I want to make sure everyone knows is you need to apply for both, no matter what. The SBA recommends it. They encourage you to do it. The government, as crazy as it sounds, they want you to get some money because they need liquidity in the economy. So you getting money is actually a good thing for your community. So you should definitely apply for both loans.
So that's super interesting. And I know that you're going to break this out. So I will be providing a link for this. I want people to go to Nathan's site to download this PDF so that they can get a much better understanding of the things that we're talking about right now. Because it's still, as much as we really are making a solid attempt to break it down, it's still a lot to think about. And every business is going to be different. For instance, Nathan, it sounds like to me, the advice is to apply for both. You need to figure out if there's something here that's possible for you. But if somebody didn't have payroll, in all of 2019, is that even going to be an eligible applicant? Is that
Right.
just, you can answer that question. Also, like, people would need to look into that because maybe they can't apply for both.
Yeah. And so the answer to that question is it depends. And what that means is that if you were an LLC and you're the only owner of your LLC, then you're eligible for that loan. However, if you were an S corp or a C corp or anything other than that LLC that had one owner, um, then you could not apply for that loan unless you had payroll.
Mm.
Um,
Because those are things that are specific to those types of company filings. You would have to have payroll to be one of
Correct.
those, or
Now,
ideally would be.
yep. And now one of the things I'm very unclear on, and I think to I'll just say it is with independent contractors. Let's say you're a freelance graphic designer. Um, you don't have an LLC set up. You're just kind of working out of your house. You don't have a business bank account. You don't have any of that set up. You're just kind of working as a freelancer. My understanding is they're eligible too, but
Wow.
let's not quote me on that, even though we
Yeah.
technically are. I would encourage them to reach out to their bank.
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely need to be asking your financial professionals about this regardless, because like we said, everything could change. More clarification could come out. I think even the banks, I spoke with my bank today, because the other thing to keep in mind is that you actually apply for these two loans differently. You go to different
Yep.
sources for them. I called my bank about the payroll protection, the triple P, and they were very open about, we're doing everything we can to support you, but we're learning about this just as fast as you are. And I
Yeah.
can't blame them for that. They're a business too, and they're just trying to figure out how they can continue to help their customers, but also, stay afloat during this time too. And it's a crazy moment. So it's very important that everybody talk to the professionals that they work with when they have a business, regardless if you're a freelancer and you just go file your taxes every year. Reaching out to the right people that will know something about this to direct you is important. I think, Nathan, did you say something about, like, you can't just go and take out every loan, but you should be applying for them both?
Right. The guidance, as we just kept saying, it's not 100% clear on this yet, but you may or may not be able to have both loans open at the same time. I think, when you and I spoke about it earlier, I, I, I tended to believe that you can only have one of the loans open at a time. So if you were approved for both, you had to choose between the two. But there's some very believable people that are saying, no, that's not accurate. You can actually have both of them open at the same time. So,
Mm.
um, but even if you couldn't, the idea here is, and this is, my understanding is straight from the SBA themselves, is that you want to apply for both because you want to improve your chances of getting something. Because, like I said, that first loan, the fund is only $8 billion. There's only so much that can go around. And so if that fund just runs out of money, it wouldn't matter if you're qualified for that loan or not. You just can't get it because the money's not there. So that's
Mm.
why you apply for this paycheck protection program loan, which is a $350 billion fund, and you might have a better chance there as well. But you apply for both to increase the probability that you will be approved for something.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So this is really crazy. Okay, so let's talk about the fact that this is a loan. There's definitely a forgiveness conversation going on. But anytime you are loaning money, you're technically borrowing money that you need to pay back. And there's definitely going to be one of these scenarios is going to be just like that. The other one may not be like that. It may be completely forgiven. I personally just like to err on the side of caution when I say it's forgiven. Like, no,
Yeah.
I'll believe it's forgiven when you forgive it. like,
Right. Right.
like I'll believe it then. But what does it look like on the repayment side? Do we know anything about how long it's going to be? Are they starting to tell us, how much time we have in grace period before we're expected to start paying it back? What do we know about that so far?
So I have a little bit more information on the disaster loan for those kind of questions than I do the Paycheck Protection Program
Yeah.
loan, but my guess is they're going to be very similar. So let me just speak in terms of the disaster loan, and then let's just extrapolate that over to the other loan as well,
Okay.
even though the details may not be the same.
Okay.
So the interest rate is going to be no more than 4% on the disaster loan. It should be 3.75%.
Okay.
There is a potential of getting $10,000 as a grant. You are guaranteed payment deferrals for the first 4 months. That means you do not have to make payments for the first 4 months you have the loan. You may be able to defer payments as long as 18 months, depending on your need. And then the payback period can be anywhere from 7 to 30 years. And I think what's common in these types of loans is 7 to 15. So I think it's just determining the payback period is going to depend on your need, your ability to repay, and how much you borrowed. So I would assume the smaller loans will get paid back sooner than the larger loans. And you can actually get approved for as much as $2 million on the economic disaster loan. So I would imagine I don't have the specifics on the the Paycheck Protection Plan loan, but I'm guessing it's going to be very similar.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I really want people to keep that in mind because I think that it sounds like they're giving, I mean, like it sounds like a good period of time for eligible payback. It's not like you're expected to kind of get it right back to them. But it is very important to be thinking about when you're applying for a loan. What's the plan here? How are we going to make sure that the reason we're using this money is so that the business will not just survive, but to potentially thrive in a way that we'll be able to sustain this extra payment that we're going to have to start making?
You make a really good point. I mean, the truth is, I mean, every business owner knows their business better than anybody else.
Hmm.
And if you know you're going out of business, um, you should really think carefully about taking on any additional debt, because that could just make your problem. It could just magnify or amplify your problem,
Right.
um, instead of helping you, because now you're going to have this debt looming over you. But if you think that you just really need a bridge to get through this, and you think when you get out the other side everything's going to get back to normal, and you feel very optimistic, absolutely, you should definitely go and apply for these loans, because that's what they're intended for. But like you said, don't burden yourself unnecessarily with debt, because it is debt.
Right. Right. Okay. Well, I don't know. I don't know where I stand right here. I know you're working hard on this issue for me, just because we like to know what our options are and we take the advice of our financial professionals very seriously. So we're really just applying just to see what this process looks like, just to see what our options are. And so I just thought it was very important to have Nathan on today to kind of bring a little bit more light, as much light as we can shine on it for anybody that this might apply to in the United States who has a business of some kind. And we're all about going after the life that you want and creating the financial freedom to potentially make that happen. And a business is definitely one of those ways. So for those people who have made that decision, I hope that this was really helpful. Nathan, is there anything else that we didn't touch on that I'm not thinking about from, the consumer side of these loans that's really important for people to know?
Yeah, let me just end with this: is that even though things are kind of going sideways right now for all of us, there is just a ton of opportunity out there. And I'm seeing it. I'm seeing the creativeness of business owners everywhere. I think there was like some bagel shop out of Florida, and they just moved all their orders online. They were delivering bagels to people's houses, even though they couldn't have them come in the store. We've had another restaurant out here. They don't even have a drive-through window, so they would just let you come up, honk your horn in the back, and they were just giving you food out the back door, kind of thing. And
Wow.
I just think this is what I love about entrepreneurship. You just can't keep us down. That's the great part about it. Like, that's what it's all about. Is you go left, I go right. It's just nonstop innovation and creativity. So I would just tell everyone, keep thinking offensively. Do what you can to keep innovating. And if you can get these loans, use them to your advantage to make your business better.
Really, really positive words. I'm so glad you said that, Nathan. I got goosebumps. I was like, yes, this is why we own a business, to get more creative, to think ahead instead of letting other people decide our fate. And it's very hard to think that way right now. But if you can really set yourself ahead of the crowd. Nathan, we're going to link to that PDF, the Small Business Guide to COVID-19 SBA Crisis Loans. Definitely check that out. The link is in the show notes, everybody. And Nathan, if anything happens, I might have to have you right back on. So hopefully if this was helpful, we'll keep you guys all posted on that. Nathan, so thank you so much for taking the time today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much to Nathan for jumping on and sharing this information. Like I said, I wanted to get it to you quickly because we recorded this the Friday before you're hearing this, and it's very likely going to change extremely quickly. More information will come out. We're hoping that you at least have an understanding of where you stand in this matter. So if it's helpful for you, then you can do the things you got to do to make something good happen for your business right now, and obviously make very conscious and smart decisions for your business right now. So hopefully that is what we achieved. And if anything really crazy happens, maybe I'll have him back on to clarify what's going on. But if nothing else, you have the information from a getting started standpoint to decide whether or not you need to be looking into this further. I know we went really niche today, really businessy today, but I'm very, very passionate about the fact that people have decided to become entrepreneurs, to go after the life that they want. And that means continuing to do everything you can to set yourself up for success. This could very well be something that helps you with that. And I am bringing that awareness to you because I care about it so, so deeply. So please go download that information from Nathan. I trust him implicitly. He has been my accountant ever since I started more than a decade ago. So this guy knows what he's talking about. If you want to talk to somebody, try to hit up his team at Done Wisely, and definitely download that PDF ASAP to get more educated so that you know what action to take. That is all for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate it as always. Remember, we have a regular episode of Detail Therapy coming for you tomorrow, episode 72 with Tim Kite. So stay tuned for that. It is literally epic, especially to those business leaders out there. Subscribe for good vibes, kiss the ones you love, and go after the life you want. I'll see you tomorrow. Cheers.